Welcome to Equity in Focus. I am your host, Kevin Hooks, and today we're diving into the world of basketball, sports development, and much, much more with a truly influential figure. He's not just a game changer on the court, but also a visionary off the court. He's helped bridge gaps and build futures across continents. Today's guest is a remarkable Gregory Jones II, a man whose life and career are as inspiring as it is impactful. Greg, thank you for joining us. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on today. This definitely is a conversation that I've been looking forward to having. Definitely, especially on the platform that is presented to me with this. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. Before we get started, tell the audience a little bit about who Greg Jones really is.
Right, no problem. So again, my name is Greg Jones II from Gary, Indiana. I've been around basketball my entire life. My company, G2 Hoops, which is a sports marketing event management company, and we work at from the grassroots / high school level all the way up to the pro level, and just trying to give more individuals, kids that look like us, an opportunity to just make it and understand that it is people that do look like you in those spaces and those capacities that can help you out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you're from Gary, Indiana. A lot of prominent people, a lot of people may not know this, but it's produced some greats from Gary, Indiana. But coming from there, how did that impact your journey?
Well, I think, when you're growing up, obviously you have no idea of the stuff, right? And hindsight is 2020. But Gary to me is the best melting pot in regards to when you look at that nature versus nurture and the things that you develop within the household, but the things that you see and experience outside in your environment that just shapes you into the person that you're going to be. I tell people all day to make it out of Gary, Indiana, or Northwest Indiana in general, you got to be on your stuff, right? You got to understand where you're coming from, be able to read a room, but also understand, let's think twice before you speak, just so that you cover all your X's and O's. And to me, those are things that have helped me out tremendously in business.
It's interesting. And for full disclosure, everyone, I'm very familiar with Mr. Jones and his family, and I really am in love with his mom. So I know how much your mother had an influence. And for all of us mama's boys out there whose moms had such a profound impact on our lives, talk about how much her nurturing and guidance helped you achieve what you've achieved.
Right, for sure. My mom, she's a special woman. I think anyone that meets her, I think they just kind of are drawn to her. She's like a magnet for love and care and affection. But my mom is one of the most creative individuals I've probably ever been around. And for her to be, I don't want to put her age out there, but for her to grow up in the generation that she did, and still to be able to think outside of the box and understanding that, she was limited in certain things back then because she was a Black woman, and being able to pass things on to her five boys. Like, so my mother has five sons, so I have four brothers. I think it's a testament to her, but also just her instilling in all of us, you can be whatever you want to do if you put the work in, right? Nothing's going to be given to you. Earn everything, respect the craft, respect people, and just take care of your business.
Yeah, and you've definitely taken that to heart in your 20 or more years in strategy consulting. Can you tell us about a project or something early in your early days that really inspired you to say, this is the path I want to be on. I'm going to take the lessons learned from Gary, and I'm going to grow this business?
Oh, absolutely. I could. So after I graduated from Purdue and spent a little time in Mexico playing professionally, I was like, you know what? To me, it was time to kind of get on the other side of the court and help as much as I could with individuals that look like myself and come from places like Gary, Indiana. So one of the first projects I had was on LinkedIn. I was like a extreme LinkedIn connoisseur early in my time with it, and I used to always be on there. And I just randomly got a message at like 4 a.m. from someone in Egypt. Was like, "Hey, I have a kid. I think he could play at the college level in America, but I'm not sure how good he is." And I was like, "Hey, send me over the film." I mean, I played college ball. I've had, still keep in contact with a lot of college coaches at the time. So I was like, send it over. and I got the film, and I'm like, man, this kid could play. I just don't know if I don't think they know how good he was at the time. So we fast forward that the kid name is Ehab Amin. He actually played in the 2014 Nike Global Challenge, which would back then Nike took the top 80 or 90 players or so. It was four teams split up in the USA, a Pan African team. They would have a team from Brazil or Spain and various other countries, and he was one of the best kids there. And that kind of, to me, gave me the launching pad in what I'm doing today. And from that, from him, then we had some other kids. Kareem Azab, who unfortunately passed away from leukemia a few years ago. I had him at the University of Memphis with Tubby Smith. He was the first Egyptian to play on the Nike EYBL circuit with Chris Paul's Team CP3 AU program. So like those two projects were kind of like the genesis of some of the things that I do now, and always giving back and helping out individuals. And, you know, that just really, like I said, just started everything from then to now having things internationally, but now moving things more domestically now with the high school players and teams collegiately, and then in the WNBA as well.
Listen, I appreciate the humility, but we're gonna back up a little bit because you just casually threw in there college ball, a little stint in the professional league in Mexico. Talk
Mm-hmm.
about like how important that has been in shaping how you approach athlete development because you've had those high level experiences.
Right. It was cool. Like my playing career was not the traditional one. I ended up getting hurt, tore my Achilles, had ligament torn. So like I pretty much had almost like the walk learn how to walk again almost. And it just worked out. I mean, I think in my entire journey, like everything's been a certain way, and that's been destined and by God. And I don't question God with anything that I do. So for me, it's just like, okay, let's just figure it out. So yeah, I played a little bit in Mexico. I was in Nogales, and during that time frame, if anybody's seen like Sincaro and some of the other movies, like, yeah, that's where they get busy. So it was a great experience though, and like I still have footage from it. I probably on one of my old ancient dinosaur Blackberries,
Yeah.
but like it was cool, and it gave me another sense of reality, because like I tell people coming from Gary, like we have certain areas in Gary that is like, okay, yeah, it's you know what you're getting yourself into. But like I tell people, I've been to just about every major city in America, and the projects we have here, they don't compare to what's over there at
Right.
all.
Yep.
It's not close. And it gives you perspective on, it's like, see what individuals that live in those areas are going through, and then you look at kind of like what we go through, and it's like, man, we really ain't got nothing to complain about.
Right.
Like it's real over there. And then I can tell you a story, like when Kareem came here and he was staying with my parents in the summertime, 4th of July, fireworks going off. Well, clearly in Egypt, they don't celebrate 4th of July. So he, oh, what is, and Kareem was 6'11", 260 with a 7'4" wingspan, right? So he's not, he wasn't little at all. And I had to explain, oh, no, that's the 4th of July. He's like, well, why are they, so they let bombs off to celebrate? Like, well, because he was hearing quarter sticks and stuff. I'm like, well, the way you put it like that, yeah, it don't sound right. Yeah.
Right, right. Is that exactly right?
So that put another that was another thing of putting stuff in perspective of kind of like I think here in America we kind of get so consumed with what we're doing internally. We just look, you know, to the inside, but we don't see how we are perceived by the world, right? And that's just kind of one of those things of like each one teach one. Always treat people like you want to be treated, and give back as much as you can.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. A lot of times I tell people the one thing Americans shouldn't want to do is play the oppression Olympics with the world stage because we'd be found wanting because we
Yes.
are really good here. But speaking about having it good, early in your early days, you were recognized as one of the top players in the Midwest. And how
Mhm.
did you handle the recognition? And what advice would you give young people receiving that kind of recognition, especially in today's world of social media?
It was okay. It was cool. I think that legendary scout analyst, one of the godfathers of this, Bob Gibbons. He did that. He gave me that credibility after I went to his camp that was held at Wake Forest, actually, going into my senior year. So I like I said, I'm in a unique spot where I played the game, but I also studied the game, and also with me doing player development. So it's like all facets of the game I've been a part of. So certain things that I know a player is going through, right, from a mental standpoint to even their body, like the different aches and pains that they may have, I've been there, done that, right? So I like, even now when I do player development training here and there, not as much as I used to, but even something like that, like I tell kids, it's like, hey, if you need water, tell me you need water. This is not a mental thing right now,
Right.
because I understand how hard my workouts are. So if you're not drinking water, at some point you're going to crash, right? And that's not what we're trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that we are maximizing the entire time that you're in here, so that you can get the full workout to your advantage, right? So for me, it's just like being able to help young boys and girls, young men and women, and the fact of understanding the physical health is just as important, if not, it's just as important as the mental, right? Actually, the mental is way more important, because if your mental ain't right, nothing else is going to follow, right? And
Right.
just being able to deal with it and understand that it's okay with being a kid. Like, you ain't got to grow up so fast. You don't have to want to be, with NILs and different things of the nature that's now. I think we've created an ecosystem that has no checks and balances to a certain extent. So kids don't understand how things should go, because the adults around are just like here, 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 because they're taking from them instead of giving them the game, or putting them on game, I should say, in regards to how they should conduct their business and just go about as just young men and young women in the world.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned NIL. I mean, because that has certainly turned the world of sports upside down. Talk about like how you achieve balance between, helping them with the athletic development,
Mhm.
helping them understand that there is a commercial component possible to it, but then maintaining that spiritual commitment to self.
Yeah, for sure. So I work with a few different young athletes when it comes to NIL. One of them I speak with right now, because she's in a unique situation, is KK Bransford. KK Bransford is a sophomore right now at University of Notre Dame on their women's team. Last year, she was ACC Freshman of the Year, and Notre Dame is a brand in itself, right? So being able to get her as a young Black woman from Cincinnati, Ohio, to be able to say, hey, let's just figure out business wise what makes sense for you, how things can help you, how do you grow within the game, but also how do you leave your mark so that others coming after you will be able to use you as not only just a role model, but a blueprint to make sure that their careers go well on and off the court too.
I appreciate you pointing that out, especially talking about an incredible woman athlete set against the backdrop of Women's History Month. Talk about, the influence and the work that you do, I think specifically when it talks about the important woman athlete.
Yeah, you know what's so crazy? So all of that, obviously, coming from the family I have, I have a lot of strong women in my family, especially my mom. So it was one of those things of like, you get a sense early on how to respect women, right? And you get a sense early on understanding the dynamics of what America's social class really is, right? So the first thing I did back at years ago was my cousin Benita Gary Golston, who I went to high school with, middle school, which is a year ahead of me. She took over as the girls varsity coach at my high school, Bishop Knoll. And one of the first things I said was like, all right, I got to go back and help her, because I already knew the uphill climb she was going to have. I believe she took over the program when she was 23 in the state of Indiana. So a young Black woman, 23 years old, varsity coach, it's a lot that comes with that, right? And my mom had a conversation with me. It was like, it's all good and fine what you're doing internationally with a lot of these kids and federations, but you got to help home base first.
Right.
And so that's transferred to that, to like one of my clients, Dana Evans, who's from Gary, Indiana as well, who one of the all-time greats at the University of Louisville, two-time ACC Player of the Year, and won a WNBA championship in her rookie year with the Chicago Sky. So it's just being able to be that person to help and assist along the journey of women, and have them understand that you're an ally and you advocating for them. And one of the big things that I I guess it's now like one of my little mantras I have. It's like I say, it's substance in the soil, because at the end of the day, it does take a community, and you want to give back from which you can come from, and also understand, help have an understanding of just giving back and understanding with the youth that are coming up and saying, hey, one of these days I'm gonna be old, I'm gonna be sitting down, so y'all got to do this and be able to take care of stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
hopefully I've enough that sparks something, and individuals say, okay, you know what, it's my turn to really take on that baton and carry it forward.
Is that what inspired Hoops for Pink?
Yeah, so Hoosier Pink is one of the events that I run at the grassroots high school level. It is a girls varsity basketball tournament that we have during the high school season, right after Christmas. And Hoosier Pink was started because my very first vehicle I had a breast cancer license plate, because I have women that were in my family that were affected by breast cancer. So I wanted to have something that definitely could in memory of them, but everyone I think has someone that they've come in contact with that has dealt in battle with breast cancer at some point. So that's where Hoosier Pink comes from.
God, okay. So you've had a history of helping support the woman athlete.
Absolutely. I mean, you met my mom, but
Yep,
could it be?
absolutely.
If it was any other way, I'd be in trouble. So like that's just what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then right now, when you look at pay equality, you look at the women's game is growing, not just basketball, just women in sports in general. You know, we've done some pretty cool things with some of my clients that
Mhm.
we have taken pride in, but also helping other entities as well too. So for me, it's just like, hey, I like to do business with good people. I like good people around me. And I just like to grow and build.
Yeah. And how, talk about some of the challenges you face. You mentioned pay equity, and I know that there's, gender inequality is pervasive throughout all parts cycles of the world of our business community, but particularly in sports. So talk about some things that you've done to help your clients make sure that they're equitable pay with their other people who don't look like them, etc.
Absolutely. I mean, let's look at the WNBA, for example. I want to say what over 90% are black women.
Yep.
Uh, but when you look at how WNBA players are marketed, you really don't see that 90% reflected in how it's supposed to, right?
Mhm.
So my three clients that I work with right now: Dana Evans, Chicago Sky; Azrae Stevens with the LA Sparks; and then Tiffany Mitchell, she was just traded about a month and a half ago to Connecticut Sun. So my thing is to bring just more awareness and attention. And the one of the ways we do that is by me thinking outside of the box and getting them certain brand deals that others have never had before. So we're working on a couple of different things. Dana, we did a brand partnership that included equity with Opulence MD Beauty, which was the eyelash brand. With Dr. Anika, who was on Shark Tank. Actually, she was on. It's so funny. She was on Shark Tank the week Dana was drafted in 2021, and we did that deal. That was a great partnership. Dana's also one of Jordan Brand's athletes as well, and she's the first and still the only Jordan Brand athlete to be in Chicago to win a championship in the NBA or WNBA since Michael Jordan.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, so we Azrae Stevens, I did it. She has a real great partnership with Wilson Sporting Goods,
Mhm.
which that partnership has been great. So for me, like I tell my clients, the individuals that ask me for a consultation, is like, hey, don't you're a professional athlete, right? So don't let anyone belittle you or talk down on you as far as what your value is, right? Your number is your number, and you only need one person to buy in at that number, and then that's what it is, right? So for me, it's just educating athletes on brand identity, their own identity, and now how do we translate that into monetary value so that you can go and get your bag.
Yeah, no, I love that. And talk about like what do you see for the future, the global expansion of basketball, but particularly the women's game around the world, and will that have a positive impact on your clients?
Absolutely. I mean, we see it now. I mean, if you look at the college game, obviously everyone talks about Caitlin Clark, but if you look at some of the other players like Juju Watkins at USC, Angel Reese at LSU, Hannah Hidalgo at Notre Dame, Kiki Rice and London Jones at UCLA. And then if you look at the black coaches, especially black women,
Yeah,
right? Like Don Haley, Neil Ivy, Coach Adia Barnes at Arizona. It's coming. You see it, right? The main thing that we have to do is that you have to kind of take away the smoke and mirrors of it and understand if I see it and everybody's watching and we keep breaking these viewership and all these records as far as watching games, then that has to translate into currency and monetization somehow. Because you can't say that the Iowa versus Nebraska Big Ten championship is the most watched game in over a decade plus, but then the money doesn't follow that, right?
right.
That doesn't make right. So I think with the new WNBA CBA coming up here soon, with the brand deals getting bigger, we're definitely here right now. I think now it just turns into players, agents, managers, marketing agents, family members. Most importantly, just understanding the climate that we're in and being able to take full advantage of that, because if you don't, someone's going to try to take advantage of you. So you need to be able to know all of this and just be ready to go.
Listen, you clearly have a wealth of knowledge in the space. And I guess that's what led to the creation of G2 Hoops. Talk about your company, talk about the services you provide. And, you've already talked about some of your clients, but, what's your hope for the future for your company is?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's it's funny looking back on it. Like you said, you know my family, so you obviously know my big brother. I think being around him at a younger age, and I guess is like him taking us to various events, sporting events, things that he was doing. I guess subconsciously it put that seed in the back of my mind to kind of be in this space. And like we laugh at it now, but
Right,
I didn't see it. Like I remember being in the third grade, and he's like, "Hey, I got someone that works at this brand. I'm sending you some shoes." Oh,
right,
okay, cool. And it's pairs of Iversons, and I'm like, "Oh, that's dope."
yeah,
And now it's full circle because he asked me for shoes now.
right, right.
So
I love it. I love
it's
it. It is.
right. It's cool. So like G2 Hoops. I try to keep things as simple as possible. So G2 Hoops basically stands for Gregory Jones II. It was just a way of like I'm a real believer in your name is your name, and I'm named after my dad, who's still alive. And it was one of those things of like, okay, how can I kind of like on the low just like show him that your name's good with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking care of it. So that's what G2 Hoops is. Everybody asks me, and as soon as I say what it is, they be like, "Hey, oh, we thought it was something else." We're like,
Right,
"No, this
right.
is Gregory Jones II. We keep it real simple." So the future what it holds is doing more brand partnerships for not only my clients but for myself as well. Like I have a variety of them, and we have some that's on the table right now that hopefully in the next month or so the ink will be drying some of those. It's just pretty much, man, just pushing the needle and going vertical and just raising the bar of what we are able to do as black men and women in the sports world. And for me, it's just showing that if I could do it, you can do it as well. During COVID, I'm a Purdue grad, so during COVID, but it used to be the Cranich School of Business. Now they changed the name. I was on a panel with a couple other alum that are business owners or working in different capacities within corporate America, and seeing how the grad students were drawn to me because I was the youngest and I was the only black one on the panel was
Mhm.
cool. Oh, okay, it's not a lot of us, right? Like
Right.
that's just what it is. So being able to do that it just made it my mission of, hey, you know what? Let's see how many people we can touch and give back, and this helps. So, like I said, just the overall expansion of G2 Hoops is basically just to be that sports marketing engine, in the space that can just help grow the game of basketball and just expand that in various industries.
It's interesting thinking about the typical clients that you work with. When we talk about the WNBA in particular, and I guess women's college basketball,
Yeah.
one of the things that stands out is the importance of the LGBTQ plus community. And I'm certain that your organization speaks directly to, a group of individuals who identify as such. How do you work with that? How do you help them overcome the barriers that the world has put in front of you and encourage them to continue on the journey while being their authentic self?
Yeah, absolutely. So not only just uh uh clients that I work with being in a W space, but that goes well beyond that. Even if with friends, family, individuals that I've come across, like for me, I'm as a bit advocate. I want everybody to be treated how they should be treated, right?
Mhm.
I your orientation should not matter, right? You're
Right.
good people, good people. So for me, it's being an advocate of saying, hey, you know what? Um, you shouldn't be judged because of, what I'm saying,
Thank
sexual orientation or how you identify yourself. Like to me, that's just crazy and stupid to me, right? And I'm a big advocate on this. Like I said, everyone should be treated this equally. Like I said, my mom, like my mom would look at me crazy if I was
That's
treating
right.
people because of something like that. It don't make sense. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So hopefully through the work that we're doing, we can definitely help others. I'm very, very big on representation is key, and the more of us we can get in a room and just in general, the better off. Because I've been a part of certain brand pitches, and I'm just like, okay, so nobody on that side of the table looks like us, but you're trying to pitch something in regards to a black woman, and ain't nobody over here, black
Right.
or black,
Right.
and you try to tell me how this is supposed to look. It doesn't make sense, right? Because you're going to look, your perspective and lens is going to be night and day from what I see, right? And I think that goes into when you look at those brand deals and partnership opportunities for that community in particular, of just having people that are sitting across you that get it and that understand it, and are willing to say, hey, this is going to work because the world is ready for it, right? This is going to work because these are outstanding and great people. This is going to work because at the end of the day, it's authentic to oneself.
Yeah. It's interesting you say it can't be about us without us. And I say that all the time when I'm
Yep.
in those rooms where they're talking about civil rights, social justice, and ain't nobody in the room look like us.
Yeah,
That's challenging in and of itself.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So what kind of words or advice, words of wisdom or advice would you give individuals who want to get into your field?
I would say when I got in, it was, so I'm 37 now. So when I got, and I'm still young. So when I got in, it was still nobody that I could just really directly go to that can kind of give me the game that I needed to know how this was, right? Or how it was, because it wasn't nobody that looked like it.
Mhm.
So it was more of in the field experiences, right? You have your situations that you messed up on this, you learn from, because I'm just a big advocate and believer that you learn more in your mistakes and defeats than you will ever will in your wins and victories.
Yep. It's old Samuel
Right?
Beckett quote, fail again, fail better,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
yeah, or, you know,
So keep your
Nelson
head.
Mandela, who said, you said he never loses, he only either wins or learns. No, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I was gonna say before we get out of here, I'd love give us your 30-second, 1 minute elevator pitch to anybody who's looking for representation.
Man, that's tough.
What separates you from
I
everybody
would
else?
say the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you can look up G2 Hoops, you can look up Dana Evans, Azrae Stevens, Tiffany Mitchell, look at myself. What we do, I think, is different from any other sports marketing, brand management company that is out here. And it shows because I think we are now setting not only a trend, but we're changing the standard of what it is to work with women in sports and just overall in sports.
Give us your social media. How can we, excuse me, your website? How can we find you?
So the website is g2hoops.com. Across all socials is at one G Jones 2.
I love it. Listen, this conversation has been illuminating. I really appreciate you joining us today on Equity and Focus. The conversation with Greg Jones was great. Remember, the game of life, much like basketball, is all about teamwork, perseverance, and aiming for your goals. Until next time, stay focused and keep pushing. Thank you for listening and take care.